Who is worse, Democrats or Republicans? This is a question that I came upon myself. It's just something I was thinking about because one of my favorite atheist YouTubers to watch is Secular Talk, is Kyle from Secular Talk. And I was watching some of his videos about religion, and then I was watching some of his videos about political type topics, and I was very intrigued by them, but it's pretty obvious that he is Democrat. He's pretty democratic, and a lot of his videos have to do with bashing Republicans. Well, then I watch Republican videos, and they do the same thing about bashing Democrats. And they say pretty much the same things about each other's policies, that, you know, each other are anti-American, that each other want to hurt the economy, not help the economy, and that each other's policies are stupid in the broadest sense, and that's just basically how they look at each other. And it's both sides say the same thing, both sides make arguments about each other, and which one is worse? So I should start out by saying that I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I am an independent voter. I'm not even a voter, actually. I'm 19 years old, almost 20, and I haven't registered to vote yet, and I don't plan to until I want to. I have no desire to yet. That may change down the road. I don't know. I'm not going to say I'll never vote, but I'm an independent. And the reason why I consider myself an independent is because there are some issues that I agree more with Democrats, and there are some issues that I agree more with Republicans. For example, gay marriage, I agree with more with Democrats. I agree with Democrats when it comes to weed legalization. And I agree more with Democrats when it comes to the death penalty, for the most part. It is more democratic to be against the death penalty, and I'm against the death penalty, but not always. That one's a little more iffy. However, when it comes to economic policy, I'm more. It's kind of hard to say, but I'm more on the side of Republican in that sense, but not in a lot of ways. When it comes to things like minimum wage, should we keep it, lower it, raise it, whatever, I don't care. I don't have an opinion because I don't know enough information. I don't know what effects will come from doing whatever action is suggested. I don't know, and I don't really care. That's not one thing that I care about. Republicans usually want to keep or lower the minimum wage, and Democrats want to raise it. And they both say, oh, well, it's the obvious thing to do, but, you know, it's obviously not because you guys are in disagreement about it. You'd have to talk to economists about that, and I think even they're in disagreement about it. But when it comes to one thing that I disagree very strongly with Democrats is taxing the rich more. My dad would classify as wealthy, and my dad has no reason to be taxed a higher percentage than any other American when it comes to income. And he already is, and people want to make it so that he pays even more, and poor people pay even less in terms of percentage. And I think that that is incredibly unfair because my dad works his ass off at his job. He's basically right under the CFO for a company. It is an incredibly stressful job. My dad works a lot of hours, goes on a lot of business trips, and he has to sacrifice a lot of his time for this job that he works at. And so he works for his money, and he does not deserve to be taxed more. I mean, I think last year he was in income tax alone, he was taxed like $400,000, which is unbelievable for one person to pay, especially if you look at the percentage of what he earned and what he had to pay. And people want to raise that even more. Now, my dad isn't struggling financially because of these taxes, but my dad works hard enough for his money, and there's no reason he should be taxed any more. And that is one reason why I disagree strongly with the Democrats. However, the topic is which one is worse. And so looking at it, I want to, after talking about that, I want to point out that I am looking at this objectively. I'm looking at this as unbiased as possible. And I say as possible because there obviously is some bias in this, but I try to get it. I try not to have that as much as possible. Well, in my opinion, I think that Republicans are worse. Not the moderates. Moderates can be okay, and it can be fine. But the reason why is because when you look at either party, obviously if you look at the radicals for either side, there's going to be problems and there's going to be things that I take issue with because I don't agree with radicals of any movement, especially not political, Democrat or Republican. I'm strongly against the radicals and what they stand for. However, when it comes to radical Democrats, I'm not entirely against what they stand for. The radical Democrats do vote on a lot of the same issues as me. They are the ones who typically vote for gay marriage, for legalizing weed, and against the death penalty. That's what they typically go for. Not always, but that's what they honestly a lot of the times go for. When it comes to and that's a very progressive mindset that would really help the country to legalize those things. So there are things that are bad about them, but they are a more progressive type of political person on average, not always. However, when it comes to conservatives, when it comes to the radical Republicans, that's where a lot of the issues lie. A lot of the radical Republicans are for things like basically converting us into a theocracy. Almost every single conservative I've ever seen has always mentioned, we need to get God into government, and saying things like, the Supreme Court isn't the supreme being when it comes to this gay marriage vote and things like that. They also are, against gay marriage. They are against legalizing marijuana. They're for the death penalty. They basically are for regressing the United States when it comes to religion, bringing religion. So one thing that has factually been shown is that the more religious a country is, the worse off it is in terms of economy and many other factors as well. And they're trying to get religion introduced and forced on everybody so that everybody's Christian. So they are, in fact, trying to hold the nation back. They see it. They obviously aren't trying to do that on purpose. They see it as God is the best. Everyone should believe in God. Therefore, if we try to convert everyone to Christianity, then we'll have the best country ever, basically is what they're saying. Well, that's far from the truth, and they need to realize that, and that's why I personally would say that Republicans are more on the harmful side, because it's been shown statistically that the more secular, not necessarily atheist, but the more secular a country is, which there is the difference, the more successful the country is. The better the economy does, the lower the unemployment, yada yada yada. All the good things that a country can do. It happens more often in a country that is more secularist and more atheistic. And that's important for the progression of a country, especially the United States. We have a horrible, horrible national debt. And if we want to work on that debt at all, work on improving that debt, going more religious is not going to do it. And so, yes, my final vote when it comes to an unbiased, independent vote on who is worse, Republicans or Democrat, I have to vote Republicans are worse in general, not always. And it only has to do with the radicals of the respective groups. The moderates, Democrat and Republican, I do not see as harmful. They each have their own ideas. And yes, some moderate Republicans are against gay marriage and all the progressive things, but so are some moderate Democrats, and it's a toss-up. And so looking at the moderates, I can't really make an opinion based off of that, but I can make an opinion based off of the radicals. And based off of the radicals, the Republicans are far more harmful. I mean, if I watch a radical Democrat, I can sometimes be like, okay, Yeah, they're okay. They're sometimes a smart person. They sometimes say smart things. But when I look at someone like Bill O'Reilly, it's just bullshit and upon bullshit. And it's not good to hear. It's very harmful for the country, the economy, people inside of it. It's just not good. And this is, like I said, an unbiased opinion saying this. I just kind of wanted to say that because it's something I thought about and might interest some of you guys.